This is an interview with Bernie Richardson for the Oral History Project of the Eastham Historical Society, and it's taking place in Bernie's living room at 80 South Eastham Street. The date is February 22nd, 2023, and the interviewers are myself, Marca Daley, and Rick Lindholm.
Okay, as a footnote, I should say that Marca and I both went to Eastham Elementary School together and through the 12th grade at Nauset. And I just thought I should mention that. So we'll start the interview with Bernie. Where and when were you born?
I was born April 1, 1935 in the Richardson Homestead on Rock Harbor Road. I was born at home. It was a depression. We didn't have any money to have a birth, so they got me at home.
Okay. Okay. Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I had one sister, Anna, who has since passed away, and she married Les Morse, who had a cottage down in campgrounds. His father did, and he used to be a New England bus driver, old New England bus service, and that's how they met at Reno Diner.
Now, where was that? The diner?
Well, right across from Nauset Marine.
Okay, all right.
And then I had a brother, older brother, Leroy Jr., and he was in the Navy. And then I had a younger brother, Donald, and he's in Hawaii right now.
Okay.
How long did you live in Orleans, and when did you move to Eastham?
Well, basically, I left home when I was 14 to go to the Bristol County Agricultural School, and we stayed there in the dormitory.
Huh.
And then my father and mother didn't get along, so he took off. You know something about that, don't you?
Yeah.
So anyways, I actually lived there summers and worked down to Taylor's Farm down in East Orleans.
Yeah.
And then in the last year I went to work for Dr. Leach at Nauset Moore's farm here in Eastham, and I ran the farm. And finally, he sold out all the cows to Ole Lund up in Brewster at the Pine Ridge Dairy.
Yeah.
It was a dairy farm.
Up there.
And the Nauset Moors also?
Well, we didn't have anything to do with that.
Oh.
But Ole Lund owned it. And he moved the cows all up there and had Pine Ridge Dairy, if you remember it.
Yeah. You mentioned Fort Hill.
Yep.
Now, what was that? And who
That was
owned
a farm.
That was the
That was Wilford Gunn's farm.
Okay.
And then Dr. Leach bought it from him, and he ran his veterinarian service there, and then he had the cows. I had 21, well actually I had 28 milking. I went to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd get through around 10, come back about 2 in the afternoon, and milk cows twice a day for every day.
How old were you?
I was 18.
Wow.
I was the youngest noted herdsman in the state of Massachusetts at that time.
And what kind of courses did you get at the agricultural
I got
school?
animal husbandry, market gardening, orchard, and greenhouse
Is it true that Eastham had lots of orchards?
Orchards?
Yeah.
Well, everybody years ago had 3 or 4 apple trees. And they used to put them in a barrel and put them down in the cellars of their barns and had apples in the winter. And I don't know if you've ever tasted an apple that came out of a barn that had that kind of musty taste to it. God, they were good.
That sounds good.
I still remember them, huh?
Yeah.
And so actually having an orchard, no, but individuals had small orchards. You know, they didn't have any 400 or 500 tree orchards.
Right.
But everybody had 3 or 4 apple trees, and there's still some around.
And did people have their own gardens also?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Most families had a milk cow. They got their own milk, and they had chickens, and they had ducks and geese, and most of the men of the family hunted because a roast goose would go a long ways, a Canadian goose, you know.
And what else did they hunt?
Well, they used to hunt quail. Oh, my grandfather, he would go out in the morning and come back with 20 or 30 quail. And Grandma would clean them and butterfly them, and she'd put them in on a pan and put them in the oven or the wood stove and bake them and put lemon butter on it. God, were they good.
Wow.
Oh, I'd like to have some. But the quail have pretty well died out. You don't see the coveys of quail no more around. I saw a couple of quail here last summer, but that's it.
When did you start hunting?
Well,
What age?
I was about 10, and that was right in the Second World War. And just before the Second World War, Mr. Sturdy owned down Rock Harbor where the Community of Jesus is.
Yeah.
One of those houses there, and he was a jewelry manufacturer in Attleboro, Mass. And so he bought my grandfather, who used to run his gunning camp over by Boat Meadow. He brought him down 2 or 3 cases of shells when you couldn't get them during the war. So he'd give you 3 shells. You go over the house, he'd give you 3 shells for your shotgun. And you better come back with 3 bad birds or you didn't get them anymore.
Wow.
Really. He was, but 99% of the people, men around here hunted. But you, like I say, you get a goose and it would feed the whole family one setting, and it was pretty big. We didn't have a lot of money.
What about deer? Were there deer at the
There
time?
was some deer. Actually, people don't realize this, but most of your deer came from Nickerson State Park when Roland C. Nickerson brought a bunch of deer down and turned them loose in where the Nickerson State Park is.
Yeah.
And they spread. But there wasn't really a lot of deer when I was a kid. You know?
Yeah.
Once in a while you'd see one, but they filtered out of there. Now there's ample. There's some around here, as a matter of fact.
I'd like to get back to Fort Hill. Penniman house is right there.
Yeah.
Did you know any of the Pennimans?
Yeah.
Were they still in that house when
Yeah.
you were there?
Yeah. They had the whalebone jawbones out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Doris Penniman married Everett Pond, And Everett Pond's family lived right down next to my mother and father and my grandfather and grandmother in Rock Harbor.
Okay.
And Doris had a daughter, Betsy Pond. She was about 6, 8 months older than I was. And we used to play together. And so, yes, she was a Penniman. And so was Monzon, Buddy Monzon.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
His mother was a Penniman. That was Doris's sister.
Okay.
Wow.
One thing about most Cape Codders, they can tell you the genealogy of the families. You know?
Yeah.
Well, so-and-so married so-and-so, and they had a daughter who married so-and-so, and boy, they had a great memory for that.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
You do.
Huh?
You have
You
a
think I
great
do?
Yeah.
Let's see, what else could we talk about? Oh, your parents. How'd your parents
Well,
get together and,
there was a veterinarian in Orleans by the name of Dr. Pope. And he went down to Nova Scotia to recruit some help. They used to hire the young women and bring them back here,
Oh.
have them for his housemaids and stuff.
yeah?
And so he was down there, and he was in my mother's house. My mother was born in Nova Scotia, Thorburn, Nova Scotia. She was a Scot. And don't ever, you wouldn't want to say, are you Scotch, Beth? She'd drive you, go right backwards. But so he hired her to come up to work for him as a maid.
Uh-huh.
And then she went to work for, where the school is now, where Stop and Shop is. There used to be a school there. Not Seapine School. Oh God, I can't think of what the name of it was. But anyways, she went to work for him, met my father, they got married, and here I am.
What was your father doing at the time?
Fishing.
Fishing, yeah?
He fishing and picking ducks down at Mayor's Duck Farm. In the wintertime when it was bad, he'd go down there and pick ducks, and then in the summertime
What do you
he'd go
mean,
fish.
pick ducks?
Well, they had a duck farm down there. They used to
Yeah.
raise 500,000 or 600,000 ducks a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember the duck farm, but
Wow, yeah.
I didn't know what
Walter
picking ducks
Mayo
was.
owned it.
Yeah?
Yeah,
And they
explain
used
the
to-
process of picking ducks.
Yeah. They processed the young ducks.
Picking the feathers or,
Oh, they cleaned them for
Yeah.
eating.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
How- How did you get up there? I mean, what was transportation like on the Cape? Because that's a ways away, East Orleans. to-
well, you walked or you rode your bicycle till you got old enough to put a old Model A that was falling apart back together, and you drove that around.
Yeah.
I bought my first bicycle for $7. Quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
I used to go over to Collins's farm and weed carrots, the most tedious job that was ever devised. 50 cents an hour.
This is Collins Farm on Bridge Road.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm trying to think of what his son's name was. He passed away. He was one of the 4 or 5 people that got polio during the polio epidemic years ago. The Reeds got it too. Nadine Reed. The other kids got it, but they survived it. But, oh God. Collins. What the heck was his name?
Oh, Bernie?
Huh?
Bernie Collins.
No,
The old Bernie.
different Collins altogether.
Tommy.
Huh?
Tommy?
Nope.
Kenham.
What the heck was his name?
While you think of that,
Nope.
what kind of childhood or illnesses were there at that time?
Illness?
Because we've just come through COVID. What kinds of things
Measles.
were yeah.
Whooping cough, scarlet fever, chicken pox. When I first got married, the Betsy Pond that I used to play with, we were friendly then. She was married to a guy, and her kids got measles, chicken pox. My wife took all the kids down there, play with them. Every one of them got chicken pox, but they never had to worry about it again.
Yeah.
Same with the measles,
Right.
old-fashioned measles. Well, I had a whooping cough. That was fun.
What was it like for people who don't know?
What, the whooping cough?
Yeah. I mean, because we hear about it, but we don't know.
Well, you just keep coughing. You can't stop coughing. But mumps,
Yeah.
I won't just tell you what happens then. But I had the mumps too. Had the whooping cough, measles, chicken pox. So when the kids come along, didn't bother me, and I had it all. Scarlet fever was a bad one. A few kids got that. They used to put a thing on your door, quarantine,
Yes.
and you they
remember.
were quarantined. The doctor would come.
I remember Dr. Burke. Now, he
Yeah.
was down by you.
Yep.
Was he your doctor ever, or did you?
Dr. White used to be our doctor.
Okay.
Dr. Burke came in probably, I'm going to say sometime in around 50.
Okay.
He moved down from wherever he was. He had a daughter and a son, Edmund Jr. and Marion. And
And he used to still go right to the house.
oh well,
Come to your house.
most of your doctors did then. They made house visits.
Yeah.
But now you can't even get them on telephone.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school?
I went to
Did you go to elementary school around here?
oh yeah, I went to where the town offices in Orleans used to be the elementary
Okay.
school.
Wow.
And the high school, of which I got a picture of, was across the street where the Boy Scout place there in Orleans is. That's where the high school, then they built the high school in 1942 up where it is, the middle school is now.
Right.
And they had all the kids pick up all their books and everything when they were ready, and they all walked up to the high school.
Same thing happened at the Eastham
Yeah.
Grammar to the elementary school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I went to I went there in 1940.
To the high school.
To
No,
the elementary school.
Elementary.
Yeah. And I went to the high school. They had the 7th and 8th grade up at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there and I graduated from the 8th grade, and I went to agricultural school. I went up there the 7th of September, came home for Thanksgiving, and the next time I came home was Christmas. And then the next time I came home was spring break, and we used to get out of school in April.
Do you have any idea what the tuition, the cost of going to school was?
We used to have to pay our own room and board, and it was $1 a day and $1.75 a week for the room. So it was $8.75.
Wow.
And they would give you a job on the farm. They had a farm, 200-acre farm, actually, and a dairy herd and everything. And I had worked at the farm. I could milk cows and things. So they put me to work down the dairy barn. I used to get 35 cents an hour. And at the end of the time, if you worked there all the time, you would make just about enough, maybe $2 extra to pay your room and board each month. So I paid my own room and board.
Wow.
I loved it. I own a 110-acre farm up in Maine right now. That's a picture of the house that I built up there.
Have you always worked in farming,
Yes,
agriculture?
I'll tell you a little story. See, my father isn't here anymore. But he used to fish out of Rock Harbor on a boat. And so he wanted me to go because I was free labor. But they used to, what they call, break the tides. In other words, they go out in the morning and come in the afternoon until the tides got later and later and later. And then they'd break it, they'd go out in the late and come in early in the morning, you know. And I used to get up out of bed about 3 o'clock in the morning. And when they had to go out fishing by the tide at, say, 4:30 in the morning, I'd take off. So I wasn't around for him to make me go fishing.
You'd hide?
I'd hide. And he would get mad. And I do not like commercial fishing to this day.